So welcome to Print to Pixel, Mandy.
Oh, thanks so much, Dennis. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm psyched to have you. And, I know the audience would love to learn a little bit more about you and about digital reach. And so we'd love to start these episodes with your origin story. How did digital reach come to happen? How did you get involved in it? And tell us about the very beginning of this.
Yeah, I would say that digital reach definitely had like very, very humble beginnings. So it started with copywriting because I wanted to be a digital nomad back in 2011. And that was a skill I had that I knew I could travel with. And so started there. And then as I went from writing the copy to putting it onto websites. So starting to manage the back end a little bit, went into starting to design websites and then manage social media and then getting into managing paid ads. So it kind of built from there. So in 2017, started employing the first person who was an employee at Digital Reach. His name is Charlemagne Renolo. He is still with us, and he's based out of Oslo in the Philippines. And then early 2018, we were getting some momentum and added some more team members. And then we were really kind of a lifestyle shop, we like to say. Like we weren't pushing for a ton of growth really fast. We were growing at a healthy pace, but we were traveling a lot too and kind of keeping that in balance. And then during the pandemic, number one, our clients' needs changed and all of these systems that we had been duct taping together with Zapier and Google Optimize and WordPress, like people started really needing a more stable foundation as they had to move their entire business online. And so that's when we became HubSpot partners. And with that, like we could offer better marketing services, marketing operations services, improve our advertising, and then of course, really focusing on the HubSpot product suite. I think we had really great timing in becoming a partner to HubSpot because 2020, right, was when their non-compete with Salesforce ended. And so they really started to invest a lot into the Sales Hub, Service Hub, and other products that they could not previously. So I think it was a really fortunate intersection for us. So in that time when we had more demand and we also could not travel because, right, everywhere was closed. So during that time, the business grew a lot. So for a couple years straight, we had 300% year over year growth. And then, over the, really about 4 years now since we became HubSpot partners, we've really found our groove in being platform integrators and providing complete solutions for complex organizations and a lot of them are in the nonprofit space because a lot of folks might not realize this, but oftentimes nonprofits have far more complex operational needs and ways that they are interacting with their constituents than even a somewhat complex for-profit. And most of the for-profit businesses we work with also have very complex relationships and having direct customers, channel partners, and more than just we're going after this one, ICP directly and connecting with them. Not that we don't work with anyone like that, but clearly the theme here is that we like to work with the complex. So usually those are the solutions that we end up, or the situations we end up solving for.
That's great. So it's pretty amazing how you've really grown and starting as kind of pure marketing, and now you're really attacking business process
Yes.
at from a almost really a software level, right? Like because you're taking the platform that is HubSpot is so configurable, and
Yes.
you're addressing these really complex business processes with customized data schemas and workflows and automations that are all tying things together. It's quite a transformation in a short amount of time.
It is. And I think that like if you're ever like, to me, the best people to take on like overall system integration are folks who have worked in very technical, advanced marketing operations environments, because you're constantly thinking of all of these different variables, how they're going to tie together, impact one another, trigger this or that to happen within your overall flow and funnel. So that mentality and thinking of all the technical pieces, because when you're in marketing, you've got to think about web, you've got to think about ads, you've got offline pieces, right? Events, mail, all of that. And like, you got to make all of that drive the customer journey. So if you are already accustomed to pulling that together, adding sales and service is just, a different flavor of essentially the same thing.
Right. And so kind of focusing on that customer journey, and then growing, I guess, really along with HubSpot. So HubSpot started in marketing and then built the CRM and sales and then service, and they continue to grow that out. But it's really that thread of the customer journey that is consistent across all those different hubs that they build, and so having that ability to understand the customer and their needs and capture information about them and leverage that across the different working groups of an organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, makes a ton of sense. And how have you found staffing as you've grown across these different areas? How have you found people that can understand customer from a service perspective or sales perspective that are kind of different than that original marketing approach that was the foundation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that, it really, number one, depends on what you're focusing on as far as your services and what problem you're solving, right? So I think that for folks in this space, whether you're looking for a service provider or whether you want to be one, understanding the problem you're solving, right? Like, for example, onboarding is the most common label of services in the HubSpot ecosystem, right? Like we're not really like interested in just onboarding people. That's not what our specialization is. Do we onboard people as a part of customization, implementation, system integration? Yes. But just like, okay, you just got the marketing hub and here's how to use it. And you're going to kind of, you're going to drive and I'm going to be in the passenger seat telling you what to do. That's more of a part of a bigger picture for us, right? So I think just even being able to name, because the person who's great at onboarding someone is going to be really different than the person who's great at like, okay, all of these different data streams need to come together. And in this situation, this one is the parent. But in that situation, that one's the parent. And when these two meet, in these situations, this one's the parent. And in those situations, that one, right? And can go through all of that conditional logic. And so I think when you're in that type of, when you're looking at that type of solutioning, what's really important is somebody who understands the architecture, right? And so we actually break things up. Like we have our solutions engineers and our solutions consultants who really understand how to make the system behave, right? And then we have our marketing operations team that is more thinking about how the human is interacting, meaning the customer, right? Because I will say this, on the solutions engineering and solutions consulting, they're thinking about how the internal folks, those stakeholders are going to interact with the system, right? And then our marketing ops, rev ops team, they're in the position to think about how is all of this impacting our constituents or our customers and how can we learn more about them? And so I think that, again, you have to think about, and this is what's hard when companies want to hire an in-house person, those are all very different people. They're different profiles. So we use one of the most important things in our hiring process. It's not, I like to say that it doesn't put people in a specific box of like they can't do things outside of their psychometric behavior profile, but you're going to get a really good idea of what makes somebody comfortable, right? And so there are certain characteristics that are never going to thrive in a solution engineering role, right? And certain characteristics that are never going to thrive in a solutions consulting role, right? Like that person has to own the relationship and have command. If that person is, not dominant or social, they might be able to do it, but it's probably not going to make them super happy, right? And so understanding who people are and like playing to those strengths and not trying to like, when you see these job descriptions sometimes for HubSpot admins, like I want a super analytical person who has command and can train our sales team. And it's like, okay, well, typically that like the person who's really good at analytics and the person who's going to wrangle salespeople, that is rarely the same person, right? And so I also want them to build,
right?
Yeah, and I also want them to build workflows and be a master at the HubSpot API. I'm like, when you find this person, you tell me. But I don't know, I've been hiring for this for 4 years and hiring technical marketers far longer than that. And I have not seen one person who is great at all of those things. They might be able to do it, but like, prioritization, right? So like, I think when you're building that team is understanding, and it took us time to find ourselves. I think it takes everyone time to be like, what do we want to do? What do we not want to do? Who do we want to do it for? Okay, we had this person in this role that didn't succeed. Why didn't that succeed, right? How do we need to redefine this? So like we work with a consultant for predictive index. That's what we do for our, behavioral testing. And if we get a bunch of misses, it's like, we need to redo this profile. I don't think we really understand who we need in this seat right now, right? So I think it's being honest about that and not trying to, as a business owner, if you're the one doing the hiring, like, just like think about yourself, right? Like, you're not good at everything. We might like to think we are, but we're not. So, be realistic with yourself and with others about what we can expect people to thrive at, and then put those, like good to great, right? Get the right people in the right seats.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's easier said than done, for sure.
And, yes. Always learning.
Kudos to you and the team for having built what you've built. It's really tremendous. So, we've had the opportunity to work together with an organization known as the Connecticut Project. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about that relationship that you've built over time. And, Digital Reach is the lead, and Postalytics is a service provider. We're helping to drive results. But we'd love to hear about, how that came about, and really the strategy around using direct mail with other channels and with HubSpot to drive results for the Connecticut Project.
Yeah. So that's a really cool story because, number one, it has stretched HubSpot into territory that, to my knowledge, HubSpot had not been before, right? And so, really visionary leader over there that we're working with, a man named Mel, and he's incredible. And so he had this like, I want to do everything on HubSpot. And I'm like, okay, what all do you need to do, right? And we've worked with political organizations before. And so it's a complex data model because we've got data coming in from multiple sources where data is being purchased from, right? But also interactions, right? We have advertising interactions, we have door knocking, canvassing interactions, we've got chapter meetings, we've got press conferences for different bills and policies. So there's a lot of places that data is coming from, right? And so he wanted to have it all centralized. He believed that even though HubSpot doesn't use the term constituent, it uses customer, that you could still bend it to be able to accomplish all their goals. And we agreed. And so, we needed to build a canvassing platform on top of HubSpot. So we built an application that ties into the platform that allows their team to work in a web app when they're in the field, but then go back to HubSpot to run through the prospecting workspace, to go through and follow up with people that they talk to out in the field, do custom integrations with L2 and Policy Map and their different data providers, and then be able to push out all of their different, all of the different marketing channels that they need, and then manage all the different, like the life cycle stages are very different, right? And like when we're looking at the data, like, yes, we want to move people through to be volunteers and supporters and all of that. But we also want to get a good idea of like, how is the message resonating? Who are we connecting with? How likely are we to make this policy change happen based on how engaged people are? And so there's a lot of different angles. It's not just like, again, more complex than a for-profit, not just like, are we getting people to revenue? Are they churning? Are they expanding? Right? We've got multiple goals happening at the same time. And so we've got to manage all that within the, architecture of the system, which also made HubSpot the right fit. So where Postalytics fit into this, right, is like, obviously when you're having these types of campaigns, we're having to warm people up to the organization and the brand. We're having to warm people up to policy changes that they might not know are happening that are going to impact them, right? We have to, somebody had a really good conversation with somebody at the door. How are we going to personalize how we connect with them, right? So we've got these different streams. So where Postalytics has come in and been a big help is, number one, even for the larger sends, like when we're doing, a list of 50,000 people, a list of 100,000 people, we're able to understand, number one, what's happening, right? So these people receive direct mail, they click this QR code, how are they converting in the various ways? But also seeing, hey, in the areas where we sent direct mail, how much faster and how much lower cost are the conversions in those areas compared to the places that we didn't, right? And then we can also get into the targeted pieces. And an example, like I mentioned earlier, where like, okay, someone just signed up and signed a petition. Let's send them something now to thank them for signing that petition, right? So getting that one-off piece out. And then did they come back to the website after that, right? Or, they just got their mail delivered. So when someone just got the mail delivered, let's add them to this list that increases the frequency or changes the messaging that they're seeing in their Meta ads and their Instagram ads and their display ads, whatever that may be. So it's a really dynamic tool to be able to stand out, right? And not just be in the, you know, having banners or newsfeed posts and what have you, but to be able to add a different tangible piece, right? And to be able to ask people about that. Knock on the door, like, hey, we sent this piece of mail to you. And then it's like, oh, wait, oh yeah, I did see that. I didn't pay attention, but all of a sudden you have this bridge to start a conversation. So it has a lot of cool uses, especially for them. And in this first year working together, we were able to see some great success in building up their initial chapters and to see all of that work, you know, harmonizing those different marketing channels and understanding the data and acting and segmenting automatically. We were able to see that have an impact and see the growth in local grassroots activity grow faster.
I love it. I love it. This is really the vision behind us starting Postalytics, right? And coming up with the phrase direct mail automation that you know, direct mail ought to and now is able to plug in and to be used as a surgical instrument, right? In a multifaceted approach to engage with an audience. And
Absolutely.
so it's so great. And you know, it's beyond the scope of what we do, right? And so we're a software company. We're heads down, and we have to build this national print network and you know, highly specialized software. So we can't really fulfill that full vision. And so working with folks like Digital Reach, you know, that understand that full customer lifecycle or donor lifecycle or constituent lifecycle, I guess in this case, right? And able to build that architecture, that data architecture that can own all of that and then plug in direct mail and other channels to work together to really provide that laser focused engagement. It's so exciting, and so
Yeah.
we've been thrilled to work with Digital Reach. They've been a tremendous partner, and you know, having such depth in HubSpot, it really enabled your organization to drive this and to create such great success for Connecticut Project.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool. And like when you think about the value of instant, yeah, instant communication, it goes beyond like what we've just talked about. For example, like membership organizations, right? Like we have another project coming in that's going to involve Postalytics, where, you know, sending out membership cards to tens of thousands of members, that being done only a handful of times a year because it's such a massive undertaking and doing these mail merges manually. So being able to, you know, do that automatically and get that when you think about the experience, like I sign up to be a member or I renew my membership, and within a week or 10 days, I have that card in my hand instead of like, oh, it came 3 months later, right? Like, how much more likely are you to engage? How much more meaningful is it? Like, when it shows up 3 months later, it's like, oh, yeah, that's that thing. Yeah. Or when it shows up real time, you're like, yeah, now let me go use this, right? So I get value. So I renew as a member next year. So I keep the organization strong. So there are just so many use cases for how this, or in the, I know we were talking recently about a magazine option for a client, right? To be able to like target, send out when people are converting as leads. This was in the medical space, be able to send out a magazine about this particular service, right? Which happens to be a high dollar service. And so there are so many unique ways to be able to do that. And then, oh, the magazine just hit. Let's turn up the digital ads a little bit, right? Oh, somebody visited the website. Let's surface this to one of our reps and have them give them a call. Like just tying all of these little things together to optimize. Or with the direct mail pieces, being able to really personalize, right? If you think about like the political side again, like we want it to be as relevant as possible to those specific people, right? So if we know, for example, that, people are, African American or Mexican American or whatever it may be, like let's send a version of this postcard that has people that look like you, because that's what we all like. That is the human thing, right? Like when we see something that looks like us, we're going to connect with it more, right? And so even that, when you don't have to print, 10,000 of the same thing, and you can just do that one piece, that two piece that like is, just for that person, you can really personalize beyond, like, yes, we could put their name in it and other things we know about them. Like for the political, like, okay, we know you're a Democrat, we know this, but like what if we could do a little bit more than like, hey, Dennis, thank you for this, right? Like, that's great. That's a nice level of personalization. But obviously, that's in this day and age, that's pretty, those are table scraps, right? Like, we need to do more to really like meet people where they're at in a number of different ways. So I think that, essentially it's something like Postalytics allows us to do what we can do in the digital landscape, but do it with print, do it offline.
That's the idea. Well, we like to say we're trying to make direct mail as easy as email, and take all the complexity of the production, the printing, the postage, like all the data work that you have to do, and let software do that, right? It frees people up to be more creative and to be more focused on finding, the personalization strategies that will actually move the needle. And so, a great story. As we wrap up, Mandy, I just like to say it's been a pleasure working with you and with Digital Reach. And if the audience is interested in learning more about Digital Reach, where can they find you?
Yeah, good question. Thanks. And we've really enjoyed working with your whole team as well. It's a really great crew that you have over there, super helpful, super engaging, always proactively reaching out to support us. So we appreciate y'all so much as partners as well. And as far as finding us, right, our website is digitalreachos.com. O is an Oscar, S is in Sam. So you can find us there. There are links to, book if you want to chat about, your specific needs, or love to connect with anyone who's listening on LinkedIn. So you can find me if you just search Mandy Thompson Digital Reach. I'm the only one that'll come up for that. If you just search Mandy Thompson, you might find some other folks, but if you add Digital Reach in there, then you'll find me. I'd love to connect there, and feel free to send me a message, whatever you're most comfortable with in reaching out. But yeah, we always love having conversations about the problems people are looking to solve. That's a fun part of what we do. So we'd love to hear from anybody who's interested in a chat, for sure.